Spoilers and offensive content to come. So it's kind of funny. Last season at the end, I thought Saguchi might be an actual bad guy betraying All Might because of his position and everything else. I thought he might have been bitter that All Might didn't pass it on to him and a whole bunch of other things. I've gone back and watched my impressions for the end of season 1. And I'm glad I was wrong on that, because that would have been a little bit too... It would have been stupid for what this show's pulling off.
Assuming the third season is of similar length to this one, what arcs do you think will be covered? We're obviously going to start with the Forest arc. And then I'm suspecting that we may end around... what was the arc that happened immediately after All Might had to convince Midoriya's mom that he would be protected?
That was getting their license.
I think it's a little too ambitious for me to hope that they end off the third season with the big talk and battle that Midoriya and Bakugo have. Partly because I also wanted to see that happen here. I wanted a little bit more condensation.
Don't you mean compression, not condensation?
No, I mean I'm going to stick with condensation.
Really? You're going to stick with condensation?
I'm going to stick with condensation. I wanted a little bit more of water droplets forming.
And splattering on you. Okay.
Yeah.
I think next season will end with that fight. Because remember, that took place before they went for the license stuff. That took place
after. Part of the reason that Bakugo started believing what Midoriya said about borrowed power is because of what happened at the licensing. And one of Bakugo's big issues, he said, when that conversation first started, it was him saying, how did you get your license and I didn't? What am I missing? And that's what prompted the whole fight. Because Bakugo was starting to realize that Deku has something he doesn't.
I thought that took place a lot earlier.
Nope. The arc the manga's in right now, the one where they have to save that girl, Eri.
I thought it was done, but it's not.
God. That arc is so big and pointless. It could be a whole season of this. And I gotta tell you, I'm not looking forward to that arc being animated at all. The whole thing I'm thinking of reading this is like, man, I hate that I'm gonna have to relive this in the show.
That whole arc is something that they could really cut down a great deal. It feels like the author is stalling with it. It feels like he's stalling for time because he hasn't quite thought up of what to do next. Or what I hope happens is we get to see a similarly length arc right after of what Bakugo's been up to, because Bakugo's been absent a little too long for my tastes. I don't even know if that... I don't think the author is wavering like Bleach. I believe he knows exactly what he's doing, and supposedly he's got it planned out for a number of graphic novels ahead of where he is now.
Oh, and that's a good thing, because Tite Kubo invented new characters whenever he wasn't sure what to do, which was often.
But the thing we have to remember is each chapter doesn't necessarily equate to even 5 minutes of an anime. Necessarily.
Well, the general pacing has been like 2 chapters per episode.
Yeah, but there's so much happening there. I would almost say for this whole arc, you could almost get 5 chapters to a episode, no problem. I've seen them do stuff like that with, for example, Fairy Tail.
I sure hope so, because that's one arc the anime can improve by just it not lasting that long. I'm not saying the arc shouldn't have happened. Mm-hmm. I'm saying it's kind of like my whole complaints about the sports festival arc. My problem isn't that it happened. My problem is that
it took so long.
I thought the manga took long doing it, and I thought the anime should have cut that and didn't.
No, I agree.
Like by cut, I mean trim.
Mm-hmm. And I think they'll be able to trim a lot of it, because a lot of this arc has been action.
Mm-hmm.
Which action actually doesn't take all that long to translate for stuff you can summarize.
It's unfortunately also been shitty villains expositing why they're shitty villains.
Mm.
And that If My Hero Academia has a weakness, is that sometimes it exposits things it absolutely doesn't need to. I don't need the heroes to have a meeting about why they think Tomoko Shigaraki is immature, because I can see that myself, thank you. I don't need the show to ham-fist its opinions, or the manga to ham-fist its opinions into me, when I should be determining that for myself. And unfortunately, the manga forgets that, and the anime is dead set on being a very close adaptation, which means those problems are only mirrored and not addressed. That doesn't mean My Hero Academia isn't one of my favorite animes. Yeah, it just means that it could be even better than it is.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I love this show. I really do. But I'm very glad they're not trying to do a Naruto with it. And what I mean by that is that there's an episode every week, all year, for what?
Dave, don't even try that word. Perpetuity.
Thank you.
And that's the thing. I'm glad that it's being done in seasons, so we don't have filler arcs and all that. I am totally okay with things being done in seasons. I would prefer, hell, even Dragon Ball Super, I wish it had seasons and that each season was its own arc. Instead of just, because I would have loved if the Future Trunks Zamasu thing was a whole season of that, because that to me sounds intriguing. That's nice. That's a nice consumable chunk of show, instead of all bleeding together like so many shonens do.
So, season 2 had its improvements to season 1. Had some points that were not in its favor compared to season 1. But overall, still a very strong show.
The music is what really got me. They really upped it with the soundtrack and the placement of 2 tracks, and some of the animation in this season is godly. Like, for my complaints about the sports festivals, those fights were amazing.
Yes,
especially Midoriya versus Todoroki. And then just about the entire fight with Stain.
Yeah.
Which was criminally short. They could have moved some of the sports festival episodes to that. Even the fight between Midoriya and Bakugo versus All Might, right? Just such great animation this season. This show, I already hate the term shonen, but I'm going to use it here anyway. This show proved that shonen anime doesn't have to be brainless, mindless, nothing, right? You can be a shonen show and still have depth and nuance and dynamic characters and dynamic relationships.
And here's what kind of bugs me about that is, yes, some shonen manga / shows are like that. But there have always been strong shonen shows.
Have there really?
Yeah.
Because I don't think I think more often than not, shonen manga and anime tend to be bad. I think far more of them are bad than good.
All I'm saying is there have always been strong shonen shows.
They've always existed, for sure. But they do not outnumber... The good doesn't outnumber the bad here. For every My Hero Academia, there are 10 Bleaches. For every show like this, there are dozens of shonen anime that are just pointless fight scene fodder, catering to the worst of what the term shonen stands for, and that's for boys. And that is something My Hero Academia seems to be avoiding. There's so much good in this. There's depth of character. There's multiple disparate styles of animation kind of not clashing. Like, look, I hate Stain, but he's clearly drawn like a Todd McFarlane character. And that's kind of neat to see him juxtaposed against Deku, who is kind of your almost Monkey D. Luffy-faced kind of protagonist of this kind of thing. Versus a character like Bakugo, who his art is very like hard edges and angular art, right? Versus a character like a Gravity Girl,
Uraraka,
who almost has kind of the the cutesy kid friendly look to her face with the rosy cheeks and the big eyes until she gets serious, right? There's a lot of disparate art styles in this show that all work together, and that's another way it's better than a lot of shonen. It's not just one art style, it's multiple, and I really got to learn the author's name because I want to keep mentioning his name and praising him because he does that really, really, really well. Like, look at All Might. All Might, in either form, is radically different from everyone else on the show, but he still fits. He's Superman one moment and kind of this almost comedically proportioned character the next, who works completely both ways, right?
I was thinking, looking at All Might there, All Might without his powers, I'm pretty sure Deku, without his powers, could take All Might.
Okay, I'm not sure why this is even a thought, but all right.
Well, no.
I mean, yeah.
The reason why I was thinking it is there's a big disparity between the athleticism in base body of Deku to All Might.
Yeah, and I can explain that because All Might was severely injured. That's why he has that base body. His base body is actually All Might.
I would actually like to see no shit Sherlock.
Well, if you're the one bringing up the no shit Sherlocks, I don't know where you're going with this.
I'm hoping eventually they actually show us how All Might looked in his base body before his injury.
I can tell you exactly what he looked like. He looked like fucking All Might. This form that he takes when he's not powered up, that's the new form. That's what he had to become after his injury. I mean, they could change that. They could introduce a base form from the past if they really want. Hell, this is based, there's a lot of Western comic influence in this, which means All Might could get his powers back or a different power and live. Which means he could get a new base form.
Have you read the last 2 chapters of the manga?
I got a notice that the last chapter was up. The last thing I remember reading was fucking Deku getting powered up by the little girl, and because her quirk is to heal, basically.
Then I'm going to shut up.
Okay. Did they show an All Might base form?
No, but let's just say something important happened.
Gotcha. All right. Folks, what did you think of the second season of My Hero Academia? Please go to animerave.xyz and let us know. That site is the home of Carlos Nave Anime Rave, the best anime reaction show on the internet. Mine is animerave.xyz. I said that already. And yeah.
Tune in next time.
Mm-hmm.